I could have quietly voted my conscience, could have followed the party line. But, Mr. Speaker, again, the consent of one person cannot stand for the consent of another.
That was Democratic New Hampshire Representative Jonah Wheeler speaking just moments before breaking with fellow Democrats. In early March, he voted in support of an anti-trans bill that allows businesses to ban transgender women from female spaces such as bathrooms, locker rooms, sports teams, and prisons.
The Gen Zer angered party members, many of whom left the chamber as he spoke. The self-dubbed independent-minded Democrat told the Free Press he's been called a Nazi, a fascist, a transphobe, a puppet of the right. Doesn't seem to be stopping him. Representative Wheeler joins us now to discuss. Welcome to Rising.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's really our pleasure. And the attacks you've received are quite something. Are you fazed by, you're a young person, a up-and-coming Gen Z, are you fazed by the level of opprobrium your fellow Democrats are giving you over, I would argue, standing on the side of an issue that has vast public approval, where most Americans think, no disrespect to transgender people, certainly they deserve respect and proper accommodation, but that not having them in certain female-only spaces, that's a winning issue that Democrats shouldn't be fighting?
Well, if you ran for office in any capacity, not expecting to take some punches, then you ran for the wrong job. You have to be ready to take punches when you run for an office like this. And so does it faze me? No, not particularly. I knew how I was going to vote. I knew after extensive research and talking to people on both sides how I was going to come down on the issue. And I knew it was going to be a controversial one, but a conversation worth having. I think people in my district on both sides of the aisle have said well, thank you for at least starting the conversation. And I think that's what was most important. So no, I didn't, not fazed by it. It's just glad that we were able to start the conversation about an important issue and where the party's at.
And where do you think the Democratic Party is at right now? There is a tremendous, I think, internal conversation having among the party about whether to move left, try to capture some of the energy that Bernie Sanders and AOC are capturing, at least on maybe economic issues. Then you have, more centrist leadership, not really, I think, resonating with the people as much, but maybe reasonably warning that, well, if we move further left, our agenda will be even less popular. News just broke that Jerry Connolly, a national Democratic figure, leader of the Oversight Committee, is actually going to be stepping away from that role because of his health diagnosis. So this is a very senior, older figure in the Democratic Party. And there's a lot of pressure, I think, on the party to go in a younger direction. You're a young person, again, I'll point out. What do you think Democrats should do to recapture independence that they're losing and young people that they're losing?
That's a good question. I think part of it is economics. You got to speak to people's economic material reality. You got a whole host of people in this country who can't meet a $600 emergency payment. A majority of the country. It's an incredible statistic when you really think about where people are at and what that means with where people are at. If we had a candidate that spoke to people's material reality, spoke to the fact that Americans don't feel like the government is working for them in any capacity, they don't feel like they're being listened to. They feel like when a train derails in East Palestine, that nobody actually is there to address the chemicals in the water or even to hold the company accountable. I think people want authenticity and they want somebody who's going to speak to a corporate captured government in a serious way and start talking about a public sector that will be truly public again. I don't know if that person is there in the Democratic Party right now, but that's what the primary is for.
That leads me to the next question, Representative Wheeler. Could you talk about who you see as the leader? Who do you look to? You came in here very young. You've put more than 24 bills through. You've been working hard for the working class, as you just mentioned. Who's the leader that you look to?
Well, I look to all the people out in the streets who are constantly, helping one another, who are doing whatever they can in a moment where there is very little to do here. I don't think there is a political leader here in this moment. I think you'll find one from the ash heap that is the Democratic Party right now. A phoenix will rise from the ashes as they always do. But right now, I don't know if there is a Democratic leader. I think that the Democratic Party is in an unorganized moment where they are trapped between two sides that are completely opposing. You can't, on one hand, take money from private prison industry, the finance industry, the defense contracting industry, and on the other hand, talk as if you're some kind of progressive champion. It doesn't, those two things don't compute. And so the Democratic Party right now is having to find itself in a moment where you've got one hand that's, we got to get these dollars, we got to support these donors, and then the other hand, which is trying to say that we got to support the people and the constituents. So I think the Democrats, they have to figure out how they're going to, Democrats largely have their eyes wide shut, is like what I like to say. And I think that they have to find out how they're going to square the donors they've chosen to prop the party up with on a national level with the constituents and the fact that these donors and constituents have some interests that are not just not aligned, but completely unopposed. So the Democratic Party, I think, is going to have to find out who it is. Who do you represent? Which side are you on? And if they can answer that question, then maybe a leader will come up from there.
So you've clashed with fellow Democrats on some of these culture issues where I would argue that the standard Democratic positions have become fairly unpopular. You've also, I think, warned Democrats not to totally go anti-Trump on tariffs. You said that you're not totally, wholly opposed to Trump's tariffs. Can you talk about the economic policies of what Trump is pursuing and what your thoughts are on that?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I said that we got to be careful when it comes to tariffs because the American people, they've watched NAFTA, they've watched permanent normal trade relations with China, and they've seen how that's affected their manufacturing, their businesses, their communities. And we're watching the destruction of what made America great in a lot of ways, our manufacturing base, our working class. And I think Democrats are missing a moment here to say we have for 40 years watched wages be stagnant, etc. And here we are working with the administration to try to make this a better plan so that we can actually reshore manufacturing and get things done. Now, I don't think that President Trump has as organized or as coherent a vision on American trade as some would make it out to seem. I think he maybe in his mind would like American manufacturing to be reshored, but this has to be done in a much more organized and coherent way than I think it's being done right now. So I think both sides are making a mistake. One side is using tariffs in a very unorganized way. The other side is saying that tariffs is bad, no matter how you put it. I think it's somewhere in the middle where if you could, in an organized way, in an organized effort, use tariffs and other trade policies, trade tactics to get American manufacturing reshored, I think the American people would be fully supportive of that because they know what's happened to their jobs and to American manufacturing over the course of the last 40 years.
Well, Trump's poll numbers came out and it's not looking good. Are Democrats, I've got to ask you, missing this moment to seize and leverage the opportunity to get the messaging right and to move people who are on the fence?
Absolutely. The message is great. We want due process for people that are under the constitutional protection of our Constitution. We want tariffs done in the right way so that we can reshore manufacturing in this country. I think that Democrats on almost every issue, whether it be the organization of the Social Security Administration, Medicare, Medicaid, whether it be the fact that people rely on those programs and they're being attacked by people who are taking a chainsaw to them. I think there's plenty that the Democratic Party has to argue. The reason I don't think it's resonating is because, like I said a couple of questions ago, they're trying to fight between two factions that are totally opposed, one of them being the donor class, the other being the actual constituents, the working class base of the party. If they worked with the working class base of the party and came up with a message, I think somebody would find themselves in a better place. But right now, that's not where they are. If somebody taps into that, they will go far in 26 and in 28. That I'm sure of.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on Rising today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Nice to be on.
Next on Rising, is Trump, well, he says, bringing Columbus Day back? Stay with us.